Hello and welcome back to MCFC Connect. Today we're talking about Man City's season up to now, but not necessarily the games, because we've basically done that in the month reviews. But we're actually talking about Man City's squad, okay? And out of everyone that's featured, the squad that makes it up, the team of the season for Man City so far. Now then, there's some obvious picks for this that we won't really need to speak about too much, but there are certain positions that might spark up a bit more conversation, maybe a bit of conflict in your head to think about. But without further ado, let's move straight on to the lineup builder. Okay, and for me, let's get rid of some of the easy picks, because for me there are some absolutely given easy slots to fill in. And we'll start with the number 9, and his name is Erling Haaland. A guy that has been scoring goals for fun this season. He's on 9 goals. He's on 12 goals already this season for City, in all comps, with an assist to go along with it. So, he's absolutely balling out for us at the number 9 area, and who's really surprised, man? He had, after about 4 games or 5 games into the Premier League season, this was his worst ever start to a Premier League season. And he still scored like 5 goals in 4 games or something like that. He's a joke of a striker. He's an absolute joke. And so there's obviously no way this guy wasn't getting in. But now at the bottom end of the pitch, the man that since he's joined, we are undefeated, Donnarumma. I love James Trafford, and I think he's going to be top. I think he's going to be an absolutely top keeper down the line. But I don't see how you can't love Donnarumma as well. And for me, Donnarumma and Trafford, it's a great little pairing you've got. I think they're going to both push each other to a level. I think Trafford is good enough to push Donnarumma, but he's also good enough to learn from him as well, and eventually be able to maybe take the shoes of Donnarumma. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But Donnarumma, he's been an absolutely brilliant signing, and for about 26 million, he's an absolute bargain, isn't he? He's just been cracking since he joined the club. And now for me, the final nailed on position. For me, it's absolutely Oscar Vardy at centre-back. Last season, you saw him really thrive. And look, I know before the international break, he hadn't featured. Same with Donnarumma. Since he's joined the defence, though, he's been cracking. He's been absolutely superb. He's been absolutely superb at the defensive area, and he's even gotten himself 2 assists. So, I can't not put him there, if I'm honest, lads. He's absolutely brilliant for us. Now then, gets a tad trickier, okay, because there are actual options now for other areas. But for me, I think if you're going to go for anyone now, okay, we'll do the pairing for Josko. I think you've got to go for Diaz to a level. Diaz, he's played 10 games. He's been in 10 games in terms of being in the squad. He's played in 9 of them. To be fair, he was a part of that bad patch. But I think ever since, again, the international break has really stepped up. I think he's benefited from having a defender like Josko from him, absolutely. But I think he's also just been solid overall. Because there was the argument that Kusanov playing, there was the argument that Diaz benefits from having a quick right back with him. That's where we saw the best of him when Kyle Walker was at the club. And now that Kusanov was playing at right back, you could see that he was doing very good when Kusanov was there too. But Kusanov has gotten injured, obviously, gutted, but oh well. We're still unbeaten, and we're still winning games. So for me, I think Ruben Diaz has to go in there, just because as well, I don't think the rest of the defenders have actually played enough other than Josko. Josko's featured in all the games he's been in. I think he's completed every game as well, if I'm not wrong. Ake's, I don't think has featured enough. 10 games, 6 appearances. John Stones in 8 games with 6 appearances. He's been in the team, but he's been a part of not so great point ratio. He's had a 1.33 ratio in terms of points in the team, and like in comparison to a player like Nathan Ake, who again solid centre back, he's got a 2.17 point ratio. Obviously, it doesn't all come down to that, but Ruben Diaz, he's got a 1.89, okay, which is worse than Ake's, but I just feel like he should be in there. I won't lie. So for me, it's got to be Diaz, just on that. So we'll slot Ruben in there. Now then we jump onto the fullback. And we're going to go left back first. Ait-Nouri, not too bad since he joined. Featured in all 3 games. But ultimately, he's had 1 win under us. Hasn't had an assist or any goal contributions. And ultimately, since Nico Riley's been in the team, he's been brilliant. O'Reilly's just been superb. Last season he did a good job at left back even. And this season he's come in and done an even better job. And it's funny because he isn't even a left back. He's a midfielder. He's playing out of position, and yet he looks so comfortable. He looks absolutely brilliant there. And right now I can't imagine anyone else playing that role. I'm so glad that he's playing that, because otherwise it'd be Josko. And not to say that we'd be awful without Josko where he is, but I just feel like we'd be so much worse off. Now, probably, in my opinion, okay, I'm not going to lie, the harder area of this now, Matheus Nunes at right back and Kusanov at right back. Those are obviously the 2 options. There's Rico as well, but I don't think he's really included. No offense to Rico. So, for me, it's between Kusanov and Nunes. Now then, I think Nunes benefits from the fact that he's featured in more games. Both of them have been in the squad. Nunes has been in the squad 10 times, featured in 7 games. So Kusanov's been in the squad 6 times and featured in 5. So, they've both been in the squad a decent amount, but Nunes has ultimately been in it more. Also gotten goal contributions, but I'd like to say they are different kind of right backs. Kusanov very much more defensive. He's going to help you out defensively going forward. He's not really going to provide you much. Whilst Nunes is going to help out a little bit defensively, but he's obviously got bozo moments in him. But he can get forward as well and help create stuff. As seen with 1 goal, 1 assist so far this season, which isn't too bad. I like Nunes. I genuinely do. And I think he's a decent option. Now then, as of right now, okay, I love Kusanov. I absolutely do. But as of right now, I think I am just going to edge it to Nunes, I don't know what it is. My gut is telling me Kusanov's a superb right back. He absolutely is. And by the end of the season, I could very well be saying Abdulkadir Kusanov is the team of the season right back. But other than that 1 moment against Brighton for Nunes, I know it was a bad moment. Okay, believe me, I know. It's an amateur mistake putting your hands up like that. And you could argue that Kusanov has been impervious. I think other than that 1 error, I think he's been pretty solid. Don't blame me too hard. But I think he's been pretty solid. But again, end of the season, I'm sure that I'm going to be speaking different. That is my back line. Okay? Probably missing Kusanov, but I don't know. My gut. I've got to follow my gut on this one. But my back line, Donnarumma, O'Reilly, Vardiol, Ruben Diaz, and Matheus Nunes. So let's move into the midfield now. And with the pivot, we've really got a bit of a mixed bag. There's obviously Rodri, who's been in the team, but hasn't been in as much as we'd obviously like him to, due to the fact he's recovering from ACL. He's obviously just picked up an injury as well, which gladly isn't that bad. He's got a 1.57 point ratio, which compared to other midfielders like Reinders and even Nico Gonzalez, who have 2 and up, it's not the greatest, but at the same time, I think Rodri's hardly put a foot wrong, especially for a player that is recovering from an ACL. And to be honest with you, I think he's been very, very good. So, for me, I do feel bad for Nico Gonzalez because I don't think he's that bad of a midfielder. This season, I'm going off specifically this season. I do think I've just got to edge it to Rodri. I just think with Rodri in the team, we do look so much better. You know, I just think we're that much better. And again, for a player coming back from an ACL, he's hardly put a foot wrong. I'm honest with you, lads. And I think he's absolutely worthy of being in this team because of that. Again, by the end of the season, well, to be honest, by the end of the season, this will probably be even more solidified. If there was any time for a player to get in the season, it was probably now, if I'm honest. So, yeah, I think Rodri there is a pretty sound prediction. Well, prediction, no, so far. Now then, into the midfield, we've obviously got quite a few midfield options. You know, Reinders, Bernardo, Foden, you know, Doku, Savinho. You know, and Bob. You know, there are other players I'd like in here as well. You know, Shecky, but he's obviously been injured. Thinking there's another one. I even think Kovacic could have had a spot, you know, but he's obviously been injured yet to feature in a City top this season. So there's other players that are missing out here. But I think the first one that is absolutely nailed into this midfield four, as I guess it is, I think it's got to be left wing Doku. Started the season pretty poorly. Okay, as City did, to be fair. You know, 2 defeats and 3. You know, I flamed him. I made a video saying, who do I want to start at left wing on the derby? And I was saying, don't play Doku. I was saying, play Savinho, despite him only coming back recently from an injury and having played no games. I was saying, play Doku. It'll be good. You know, it'll be good to have Doku in the team. And to be fair, okay, he's got a 1.89 point ratio. Okay, I know point ratios aren't all that, but it does show that when they were in the team, the point ratio wasn't so good. And Savinho's got 2.43, but again, Savinho's been in the team whilst we haven't lost a game, which I think benefits him somewhat in that aspect. So, Doku, for me, I think he gets in. I absolutely do. You know, and in terms of left wing, there isn't really anyone challenging him. You know, Marmoush has picked up an injury this season, which has kept him out of the team. Not sure how long that's until, but it's long enough to have lasted until this international break. So he's missed a few games already, and he's really the main competition. Savinho I prefer on the left, and he's the only other competition in terms of left wing. I don't think he's quite doing it either. So it's got to be Jeremy Doku, really, hasn't it? Now then, the midfield too. I think you've got to go for what has been our most well-balanced midfield, which would be Phil Foden. Phil Foden's been very, very good this season, I do have to say. And I think you've got to put him alongside the new signings to Johnny Reinders, if I'm honest with you too. You know, Reinders has actually had a bit of a mixed start, in my opinion. I don't think he's been superb, but I think other options in that area, they aren't exactly plentiful either, you know. Again, this is like a bit of an attacking / 8 area that we have to Johnny Reinders in. Players that can play in the 8 is obviously Phil, okay, who's in the team. Bernardo, who's mainly featured off the right this season. Kovacic, who's been injured this season. Shaggy, who's been injured this season. Maybe Bob. You know, but other than that, no one really to challenge them. So it's got to be Reinders, but I do want to say that I do think his start's been a bit up and down. I think he's had some halves of football that haven't been great, but then he's had some halves of football that have been really good. So it's not like this one isn't like cement, as well. I'll say. I think Reinders got a little bit to go. Apologies, bit of a raspy throat. And now we'll jump onto the right wing, probably the one area where I'm not 1,000,000% sure on. Yeah, I've been pretty certain going into this who I'm playing where. Everyone knows on this channel, and if you don't, you do now, I'm a huge fan of Oscar Bob. I'm up there with his biggest fans, I swear. I say that, I've not got any shirts with his name on the back, but I promise you, I love him. There's obviously Bernardo, who, since playing on the right, he's been a very good, big part of our winning patches. Other than those two, there's Savinho, who I don't think's been superb this season. I think he's been a bit flat in the games he's played, if I'm honest. Other than those two, it's hard to call. And they both had their good moments, Bob and Bernardo. Bernardo's featured in slightly more games, but Bob has also not been in the team as much over the last couple of games. Bob's got 460 minutes under his belt compared to 550 Bernardo's got, so Bernardo's actually one whole game ahead of him. I think I'm gonna put Bob in, okay? And it's not just because I absolutely love the guy and, my bias towards him. Maybe it is to do with that, to be fair. But I also think Bob has just shown great levels this season. His dribbling is incredible. He's had games where he's created the most chances. We haven't taken them. Brentford was an example of that. Created multiple chances and we just didn't take any of them. He's a brilliant creator and his dribbling is superb. How he can just switch from slow and steady on the ball, kind of like baiting defenders a little bit, dragging them in. Quick burst of speed, just like that, is so instant. It's a great joy to watch. I think all City fans can agree on that. His pace, it's so ballistic. It just happens. It absolutely just happens. So for me, in terms of this, I think this is about right. Probably a couple of shaky areas, like Rodri. Okay, you could argue he's a little bit shaky. He's not been in the team an awful lot this season. I say that he's completed a good amount of minutes, to be fair. 414. Apologies, really raspy. 414, but, that is a lot less than other starters this season, That's less than John Stones. That's less than Diaz. That's less than Vardy. So to be fair, Rodri's probably a bit shaky. Bob's probably a little shaky. You could easily put Bernardo in there for me. Nunes probably my shakiest. But I like this team. I do. And I think it does well whenever we do it. Not whenever we necessarily do it, but I think if we play this team, I don't think it's going to be horrendous. We are a bit weak on the right, I won't lie. Okay, I think Nunes is a weakness to be exploited. But I just think he's been solid, and I want him in this team because of it. But look, Blues, you might agree with me. You might think I'm an absolute crazy person for some of the picks I've had. No doubt. But beyond all that, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed it enough to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And absolutely turn on the notification bell so you're notified when the next one drops. Lots of videos coming over the international break, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I'll see you all in the next one, Blues.